All right. Thank you guys for listening. NAWDP is focusing on the resilience of our members, and we're taking the month of February to focus specifically on our members that work in the career and technical education field. Those folks do so much in an area that is so absolutely necessary. And so we just wanted to highlight a couple people and have a short conversation about their stories. So joining me today is Tracy Spikes. Tracy, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you, Melissa. Hello, everyone. My name is Tracy Spikes, and as Melissa said, and I am the Workforce Development Program Manager at Central Ohio Transit Authority. And just in case none of you are familiar with that, CODA is a transportation company. We provide service to the Columbus metropolitan area. So that's what I do at the present time.
Gotcha. So tell us how you got into the workforce industry. Like we were talking about earlier, I think that's probably one of the most unique things about our field is we come from so many different backgrounds. So yes. How did you end up working with CODA and Career Tech Ed?
Okay, so it was kind of like a match made in heaven for me because I wasn't always in workforce development. However, I've always been involved in the school system. So my career started off as sort of just an admin assistant, just going through different roles as an admin assistant, office assistant, working in our Columbus City schools, our public school system. So I was in that particular field for 7 years, and then another 7 years working with dropout prevention in the Columbus City schools, who ended up being a sponsor for the charter school, the dropout prevention charter school that I had ended up getting a job at. So that was my 14 years of working with students, working with educators, and even being just the admin assistant. I don't know if anybody knows or not, you still play many roles in the schools. And being in a dropout prevention program, a new charter school, I wore many hats because it was like we were all in it together. We were trying to build this school. You don't have the resources that you would have in a normal high school. So I was substituting classes. I kind of ran the entire building. I planned graduations. I met with students who had different social issues that couldn't come to school, that may have had kids. I worked with the pregnant teens. So I had an inside look of why a lot of our kids were not graduating from high school. And most of the time, it really had nothing to do with their ability to learn. It was more so their social situation that caused them not to be able to learn. So to try to make a long story kind of short, I ended up thinking, okay, I'm going to go back to school and get my master's degree because I was already on track to get my degree in business. And I knew that I was going to switch fields. I just didn't know which way to go. I didn't know if I wanted to be a teacher or whatever. So I ended up with an opportunity to go work at Central Ohio Transit Authority where they were paying for your education. So I ended up getting a master's in human resources. I was working for the vice president of operations and who had come from Philadelphia, SEPTA, a transportation company in Philadelphia, where they had this vehicle maintenance internship program. So Emil Williams, who was our vice president of operations at the time, who is now our deputy CEO, as the administrative assistant, they changed my role sort of into a coordinator. So I was doing a lot of different things other than just assisting him. So I ended up being the program manager for this career tech program where we, in our vehicle maintenance department, we were losing talent in the industry quicker than it was coming in. So we figured, let's go over to the career tech, have a conversation with the administration over there, the collision auto tech program, see if we can somehow help these kids transition into a viable career. Well, it was a match made in heaven because our vehicle maintenance department literally, because first of all, you have to have buy-in from the top down when you start bringing kids into a business, because a lot of people are not familiar with working with kids. It just so happened Emil knew my background. He knew I had experience working with kids. Him and the CEO went over, talked to the administration over at Fort Hays Career Tech. So we said, we're going to pilot this program. The program started in 2017, and kids would just work half days in our vehicle maintenance department alongside mentors. We had a training plan set up for them. We did open houses for them. They worked alongside a mentor. And as they were working through a apprenticeship program that we had already had within the organization, they were able to go through that program as students and become hireable upon graduation. So we have to date had 27 students come through our program. 11 of them have been hired as full-time employees, and 5 of them are making $30 or more per hour. So just that quick, from them coming in from high school, we pay our interns $12 an hour. We work with the schools on evaluations. We also do skills, soft skills trainings for them. They are just like regular part-time employees. They're onboarded like regular employees. They have access to the same benefits that we all have at our organization. And then they have the benefit of graduating as an intern and having the opportunity for employment. All of our students didn't choose to go into the field because part of the internship is trying to figure out if this is something they really wanted to do. So we kind of set it up in a real world situation where we didn't hold their hand. They were with mentors. Of course, they're working on huge vehicles. They're working on buses instead of cars like they were at the Career Center. However, they were pretty, like I said, hands-on. There were some classroom, hands-on, soft skills. We even ensured that they get their career readiness seal, which is through our state of Ohio, which puts a stamp on their diploma that says this particular student is ready for the workforce, not only in the automotive collision field, but then also as a productive member of society. They know how to go into a business and communicate with people. They know how to go into a business and offer decision making. They know how to do all these things. So we turned our program, it started off as a half-day program where the students would come in at 2 o'clock and they would work to about 7:30. This past year, we turned it into a full week on, full week off, and they did most of their academics through, what do we call it? VCAP, which is online. So they were with us for a week full time, and then they would do their VCAP online. They finished all of their academics not more than 2 to 3 months in the school year, doing it that way. So that was a huge game changer for career tech, because they're thinking, wow, if these students do their academics online, they can get through this much quicker and be hireable at a sooner date. What kind of brings this all together for me is CODA did not have a workforce development program manager at the time. So I was essentially doing all these things as a coordinator. And by the time CODA came up to speed with what the rest of the world was doing, they realized Tracy's been doing this all along. Tracy has her master's degree, but I didn't go from coordinator to workforce development program manager right away. In between there, I spent a year being the learning and development analyst. So I was running this program for 2 years, and then finally I started to tap into things like tech credit, like our workforce development program of Central Ohio. We partner with them to get training for our employees. They pay us 50% back just for using their candidates. Or with the incumbent worker training, there's funds and grants out there in our state that actually assist us with a lot of the things we were already doing. So we've, Tech Credit is just an upskilling program that our state reimburses us for training dollars. I don't know if you all have ever heard of it or not, since we're here in Ohio, but essentially our entire training budget has been wiped out because of Tech Credit. So essentially the state upskills employees that makes them viable workers in the state of Ohio. However, we can tailor it specific to CODA. We train our employees and they reimburse us up to $2,000 per credential for our employees to upskill them. So all of these things I started to get into, and then all of a sudden we come up with this workforce development program manager. Well, who's going to do all this? Tracy's the perfect person to do it. So that's how I ended up where I am now. And the one thing that helps me to bring all this together with Career Tech is I serve on our Business Advisory Council here in the state of Ohio. So that means that I'm constantly working with other business leaders to tailor things so that our Career Tech students can actually thrive in the businesses within the workplace. Then also I sit on the, it's called a Credentialing Committee. So the Credentialing Committee essentially approves the credentials that are approved when a student goes into a workplace, and what they're doing is actually an alternative pathway to graduation. So that means that the skills that they're learning on that job can take the place of some of the academics that they would have to have if they were in the school. So by having a job, going through Career Tech, being an intern, you are literally replacing some of the components of graduation, and you actually have an alternative pathway of graduating. So if you're sort of a worker and you're trying to go directly into the field, you don't want to go to college, you're not one of those students that is going on to a 4-year college, then you have an opportunity to use those skills that you've learned during the school year at these organizations and apply it towards your graduation credits. So in sitting on that committee, working with the Business Advisory Council, and then also working, having that program, it helps me to have an insight on what it is that we should be doing. And I know that was a lot, but we are now in the process of turning our internship program for the vehicle maintenance program into a pre-apprentice program. So that's one step further. And CODA is now in the process of becoming a state of Ohio approved apprentice site just for the vehicle maintenance piece. This year, we're going to rope in IT, which is another career field. Since we've got the vehicle maintenance one all down pat, we've got a program, we've got it built out, we can mimic that program and start bringing in other career fields.
Yeah,
so that's in a nutshell what we're doing.
Okay, that's amazing. Here's one thing that stands out to me about what you said. Not just that the program's amazing and what you guys are doing for youth and kind of the innovative thought processes that went into all of that, but you've been, by definition, a workforce development professional for years. But I think some of us, until we have workforce in our job title or in our job description, like we don't necessarily always consider ourselves a workforce development, professional. Because you were talking about the work you were doing with youth as an admin assistant. You were a workforce development professional then. I know how those folks work. They know, they're the ones that keep the lights on. They keep everything going. They're who you go to with all your problems. So, I think that's interesting. What would you, I guess, how do you feel? What do you think about that? Is how important is it for people in positions like yours who are working with programs, who are working with youth, to consider themselves workforce development professionals? And really, you've started interacting with NAWDP. Obviously, we're having this conversation now, but how important do you think it is for people to realize that they're workforce development professionals? They are the link that are going to take the students that are in career tech ed, the youth, and match them with the employers. They're going to be the conduit that gets them to employment.
That is why we have our Business Advisory Council meetings. And it's so interesting when I go to those meetings, how the major goal is to somehow connect businesses with workforce, meaning that teachers, counselors, they're part of workforce development, but because they went to college to be a counselor, they went to college to be a teacher, they don't infuse workforce in that curriculum. And that's probably why they never think of it that way, because I never thought of it that way. However, it all came together once I got the title. I actually had the privilege of writing my own job description. So, in writing my own job description and negotiating that whole process, people saw that in me for so many years, but I never looked at it from a workforce perspective until workforce development started to be this common word. Workforce
Right.
development wasn't always a common word, and now every time you turn around, workforce development, workforce development, workforce development. You got a manager popping up over here, you got a director popping up over here. And a lot of organizations are just now starting to assign individuals to that particular responsibility. Because one thing that I am excited about is that the Biden administration has made it a priority to invest in workforce development. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for us who are in workforce development to actually take this particular career field and really make it, one of the premier, positions in the workforce. It is one of the catalysts of, we are the glue that actually makes business, that will make businesses look good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so many, there's not one group of people who make up workforce development. So many of our partner programs, but like you said, until somebody has that in their title, has that in their job description, I think that's so important for our partner organizations. So, my next question would be about the future of your program, and I'm going to kind of roll this into one, because with COVID-19, it really does turn into one. NAWDP is really focusing on the resiliency of our professionals and just what it takes for you to do your job every day with all of the barriers, with all of the problems and the social distancing and all of those things that are coming. I think resiliency is the very best word to describe that. So tell me a little bit about how COVID-19 has impacted you, how you're working through that. What does the future of your program look like with this pandemic?
So the one thing I will say is that in March last year, when we first were introduced to all of this COVID-19, we did have to halt our internship program. And that was for the safety of the students. We as an organization had never been through anything like this. So we had to we even halted our college internships, because we have an intern enrichment program that we're building now that actually connects the collegiate side to the high school side. We're doing a presentation to our leadership team tomorrow. But going back to the question, we had to halt all internships because we as an organization had to figure out how we were going to function. Our bus operators are out there driving the buses. We had to send all of our employees home. We were in the middle of working on a work from home policy. That policy went into overdrive when COVID came about. We had to literally implement that immediately. Our benefits department, there were so many areas of the organization that we had to get a hold of this COVID thing, that we literally had to stop our internship program. Now, did we stop the conversations with the career techs? No. Did we stop the conversations with, like I said, our education leaders and things like that? No. However, they were going through the same thing. So we kind of soothed, kind of massaged each other to the process where we need to figure out, in a COVID world, how do we make this work? And I think that right now is the perfect time for us to really rebrand what it looks like in terms of how we do our jobs. So what we're doing now, I actually have to do this Wednesday. We have started a middle school enrichment program, which is it's kind of off the subject, but we're starting to introduce these things to middle schoolers. So while they're at home on Zoom, we from different organizations come in, talk about the different career fields and things like that. With our vehicle maintenance students, we'll be able to transition them back in, because now our vehicle maintenance department has a standard now. We have a COVID-19 environment now. So it won't be any different than when they were there before. However, everybody knows the rules now. You know, the mask rules, the distancing rules, and things like that. The rules are now set in place. So because our vehicle maintenance team, they don't work from home. You know, they have to work on our buses regardless. Our operators still have to drive the buses. So we can bring our vehicle maintenance students back, only we'll probably bring them back less days per week, and we'll bring them back less hours and less students, because we were taking 10 at a time. So our vehicle maintenance department was swarming with interns all the time. And the mentors loved it. They loved it. However, it's a little different now. There's liability things. You know, we don't want anybody's parents suing us if their child ends up getting COVID and brings it home. And, you know, we had to think about what this looks like now. So now we're starting to have the conversations to bring those students back in October, and also talk about work from home situations for interns. So if we hire an intern, we're going to train that intern, like in IT, we'll train that intern how to work from home. We'll give that intern a laptop. We'll treat them as if they're a regular employee, and we'll teach them how to work in this COVID environment. Because as you know, a lot of work from home jobs are going to be coming up now, because COVID-19 has shown us that we can survive through working from home. So a lot of businesses are probably going to rethink the way they do business. They're not going to have brick and mortars anymore. People are going to be working from home. So we have to figure out, we have to teach interns how to work from home. So yeah, we can't stop moving. We can't stop. We can't be stuck on things going back to the way that they used to, because we don't know if we'll have to deal with this once we get a hold on this. And this too will pass. I believe this too will pass. However, that's not to say that we won't deal with it again, and we'll be better prepared.
Right. And you guys are in such a unique situation, because there are things that you can do from home in some of the training stuff. But like you said, you can't fix a bus from home. You can't drive a bus from home. So, you know, not only is it necessary to get those students back into, you know, those teaching environments, but ultimately what their career path is headed to is an essential worker. And so, you know, COVID-19 is, anyway, I think it has taught us so much. I hate to, you try to look for the bright side, look for the blessing and the curse.
Yes, because we've lost a lot.
Yeah, it's been a terrible situation, but it really has taught us a lot about, again, how resilient we can be. Okay, well, Tracy, this has been fantastic. Yes. I will have to say that this is not the last conversation we're going to have, because this is so interesting what you guys are doing. I can't wait to see what you guys do with the IT portion of that. I know that people are going to have a ton of questions, because they're going to want to, replicate this. And it would be easy if we could replicate Tracy, right?
It would be easy, wouldn't it? It would be easy. And Tracy still has so much to learn. I'm so excited about the areas of workforce development that I have not got a chance to tap into, and just to grow the things that I do know, to try to help other people out, other organizations, other workforce development professionals. It doesn't work the same in every single organization, but at least, you have to figure out what your niche is. And the one thing, if I had to say one thing about making things like this work with workforce development, is that I have been blessed to have support from our CEO down. And that makes the world a difference when you're trying to build something.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That's kind of my story of how I got into workforce development. And I always had the support of my colleagues and any of the supervisors that I ever had. They always pushed professional development. So I've been a lifelong student in and out of, college and those kinds of trainings, but it's always been something. So Tracy, thank you so much. Have a fantastic week. Like I said, this will not be our last conversation, but I appreciate you spending this time with us, and just have a wonderful day.
No, what, no problem. You as well, Melissa. Thank you.